With every star, we are born again. Open your heart, spend less time in your head.
Hi everyone, Dr. Anthony James again here. I'm the Dean and Director of the SomaVeda College of Natural Medicine, Thai Yoga Center, and Natural Wellness Solutions Clinic right here on the NAIC Sanctuary in beautiful Brooksville, Florida. Before I get into this really interesting video that I have for you today's really interesting lesson on the many eyes, before I get into that, I want to take a minute to remind you that we have incredible professional development programs suitable for people who have never been in the healthcare business before and want to be, who've never been in a ministry of health service before and who want to be, and also for people who are in the healthcare business or in a ministry health services business right now and don't like it anymore and want to pivot, transition, or change into a practice of true medicine, which is completely understandable, all things considered. I don't have to go into it right now, what we're dealing with in the wider world, which is unrelated to the practice of real medicine and real spirituality. So if you want to move to the good side and create a path towards healing for yourself and family, for your clients, for your community, I want you to send me an email to nativeaic@somaveda.com. That's nativeaic@somaveda.com, or call me 706-358-8646 for a personal counseling session on the options available to you, and not just the options that are available to you, because we have many options. We have 5 different professional certificate programs that can get you started in a really short time. We have completely online certification programs that can get you started immediately, soon as you want to be started. And then we also have 5 different college degree programs at the SCNM to get you to that doctoral level of practice in the soonest possible way. And of course, our new Barefoot Doctorate, our Barefoot Doctors program, which is designed to get you into a practice in 1 calendar year or less. I'm happy to talk to you about this. The other thing is, on our website at thaiyogacenter.com, we have a certified practitioner directory where you may be able to locate some SomaVeda practitioner or practitioners near you. There's also some timely articles concerning the cerveza bug. I don't want to get banned from YouTube for saying you know what as well. So take care and see you in the next video. My email again is nativeaic@somaveda.com. That's nativeaic@somaveda.com. The phone number is on the website to get a hold of me, in which I invite you to do so. I'd like to speak to you in person for more information on our exciting programs. Okay, God bless, Godspeed, and be well in the name of all that's holy. Have a terrific day, and I'll see you next time in the next video. Five bureaucrats, you know, who are like the Faucis in the health department and so on and so forth, because even though lung becomes large intestine, and large intestine is a completely different agenda than lung, okay, completely different agenda. Okay, so now that large intestine is, you know, when lung was in charge, the Wei Qi is dominant. Okay, Wei Qi is dominant, and the lung is all about self-defense. Oh, the lung is about self-defense. The lung sees a threat in every corner. The lung never saw a friend who couldn't turn into a foe. The lung has its own skeptical eye that it looks at the world with. The lung challenges everything external to us and sees virtually everything around us as a threat, or as a potential threat. Okay, external. As soon as the large intestine comes on, entity within us, and that mind that mental function that it represents, the emphasis changes from external to internal. Because the large intestine's agenda, okay, would you lose your pen?
Yeah.
Somebody give her a pen. Who's got a spare pen? Just toss one over there. All right, so the large intestine has an agenda just like the lung did, except the large intestine's agenda is internal. Never met, it's a conspiracy theorist wet dream, the large intestine, because the large intestine thinks everything inside is dangerous and challenges everything that's inside that managed to get past the lazy lung, because the lung was in charge of protecting the outside. So the large intestine has to deal with the failures of the lung. Failures. Freaking lung. What does he know? Slacker. Because now we're full of what? Enemies. The enemy within. Mutiny. Large intestine is concerned with mutiny. Large intestine has to deal with things like gut dysbiosis and pathogenic bacterial overpopulation and freaking candida, who the lung let in. And now we have to deal with it. And we have to organize the logistics of how do we round up the mutineers and the pathogenic invaders, the ninjas that have sneaked in, the assassins that have sneaked in from outside and are now within us and are going to pretend like they're part of us, but just long enough to destroy us. And as long as the large intestine is in charge, that's your mindset. So you're going about your day. Now, I'm not going to do this whole thing. It's not Chinese medicine day. But we could do this every 2 hours of the day. Every 2 hours in a 24-hour day. And I have just described the organic, underlying way of being that everybody has all day long. And now you're going about your life. And you're in relationships, and you're in class, and you're practicing, and you're working, and you're trying to achieve things in your life that are not necessarily only and exclusively and completely about the comfort of your body. And every 2 hours, a different body's in charge. Every 2 hours, a different mind is in charge. And so what we say is each of these represents a completely formulated consciousness, which has the capacity by itself to take over your machine completely. And depending on other circumstances, like so, for example, if I happen to get exposed to a pathogenic bacteria while the large intestine is in charge, the large intestine loses its mind because it just got confirmation that there's enemies in the castle. They breached the outer walls. Marshal the resources. Go hide. You go hide. We're going to counterattack. And we're going to push them out over the wall into the moat. And it can happen like that. Your whole world could be about evacuation determination. Or let me say it another way. Determination to evacuate. Your whole world could become about the determination to evacuate completely. Nothing else in your whole life is important or more important or ever will be important again. You could care less. That's large intestine talking to you. And not only is that the voice of large intestine, the behavior of large intestine, the motivation is from large intestine. There's something other than the organic life. Okay, so the Nanjing says the organic life, the life of the organs is what rules you. And the life of the organs is what rules everyone. And the life of the organs is what makes us want to do this and not want to do that. It drives most of our likes and dislikes and wants and how we decide if we're comfortable or not. Most of the day, most of our life, and your higher mind, that is more related to the Anandamaya Kosha, to the eternal part of you, has actually very little place in this. Unless you seek it out and you give it that place. If you seek it out and you give it that place, then it will accept the request and it will become present more often, not all the time. That's ridiculous. It's got other stuff to do. Bigger fish to fry, I like to say. But if I keep inviting it, I keep inviting the Atman, I keep inviting the spirit, I keep inviting the higher mind, I keep inviting the meta mind, I keep inviting that part of me that is not at all concerned with this to be present as a supervisor. And actually we use the word steward. A steward, an overseer. But it's an overseer who can see over all of the other functions. And I keep inviting the steward to come and to be present. And in Native American, we say it this way. It's when we're doing a pipe ceremony and I invite all the benevolent deities, and I invite the spirits or grandfathers and grandmothers of the 6 directions, and I invite all of the benevolent deities who think highly of me being able to function in this world, and I invite all of the nature, all of the tall people, all of the short people, all the people that swim in the water, all the people that fly in the sky, all the people that crawl in the ground. I invite the stone people, and I invite the people who live in the fire, and I invite the people who live in the wind, and I invite the people who live in the water, and I invite the people who live in the rock, and the people who live in the wood, and I invite them. It's such a great prayer, right? I invite them to come and see what I'm doing, because they represent an overseeing mind, an overseeing conscious that is supranormal to my own conscious, and supranormal to my own physical existence, and supranormal to my own 5 senses. And by inviting the spirits of my grandfathers and my grandmothers, that is a metaphor for inviting spirit itself, inviting the real ornate, you like that? Innate, to be present and have that supervisory function so that I am not just the sum of my mechanical functions. That I can have a consciousness and I can exhibit a way of being, and I can exhibit a way of thinking, and I can exhibit higher sight, higher hearing, higher speaking, higher feeling, higher, if just for a moment. And that's important because we think that because we don't have this all the time, we don't have it at all. And I want to tell you that wherever that came from, if you have ever thought that because you may have had a higher moment of consciousness, but it didn't last. It didn't last. You might have had an epiphany, but every thought in your head is far from an epiphany. I mean, come on, because sometimes I think I really do want a Domino's pizza. And I don't eat Domino's. But sometimes it's just a thing. It pops in my head and I'm like, wow, square, thin crust, Hawaiian style, with pineapple. If I just had that, my life, oh my God, my life would be so much better. It just all of a sudden, it's in my head. It's just in my head. And the worst and the saddest thing is while I'm having that thought, I think it's my idea. No, small intestine and bladder. Small intestine, rectum and bladder, the unholy triad, because they are tricking me, because they know if they can convince the lungs to let it in and convince the large intestine not to immediately regurgitate it, that we will have the satisfaction of pooping it shortly. And so there is this tiered escalation of accommodation and permissions of the mechanical parts to negotiate us away from something that makes us uncomfortable and towards something that makes us more comfortable. And these organs have arms and legs, and their arms look like your arms, and their legs look like your legs. And their mouth looks like your mouth, and their nose looks like your nose, and their poop chute looks like your poop chute. But yet, on some level, you think you're in charge. When if you were really, really objective, not subjective, if you really could look at yourself as if you were not yourself, as if you were someone who knew you intimately but was not you and lived in you, you'd realize that most of the day your behaviors are not your own. You'd realize that most of the day that your pains and your sufferings and your confusions and all that, actually they don't come from you. They're not about you. They're not your own. It is organic, so don't panic. Don't lose your towel. First rule, hang on to your towel. And don't panic. Therapeutic Day Protocol is really interesting because it's 7 sessions done over 7 days, 7 consecutive experiences done over 7 days. 7 is no accident. The reason why it's 7 is because 7 is the number of doshas and subdoshas. 7 is the number of chakras. 7 is the days of the week. 7 is the 7 primary planets. 7 is a perfect number in numerology and is a number that signifies the maturity of growth in a cosmos which has at a particular moment in time, has the capacity to reinvent itself completely at another level and in another dimension. 7 is the number of years of a typical Saturn return. 7 is the number of inner cycles that we go through as each planet goes through its period of dominance in a solar system, as reflected in the 7 primary organs. Yeah, I said 6 hollow, 6 solid, but they're not all equal. Some of them are more dominant, bigger, and have more influence, like the liver, for example, like the heart, okay? Like the spleen. They're big. They're massive, right? Average liver is what, 14 pounds? Give or take, about 14 pounds? It's pretty big, okay? So the 7 sessions is not unintentional. It is coldly intentional. And as I was coming up with this concept, I tried to draw in my own mind with the most sort of universal signatories of the number 7 that I could. And what is a 7? It's 2 cosmoses, and a cosmos is 3 energies. A male energy, a female energy, and a reconciling principle. First force, second force, third force. Mother, father, progeny make a cosmos. And the cosmos, that law of 3, is the minimum required in the ray of creation in order for the hierarchy from the absolute to us to even exist. It happens in triads. It happens in multiples of 3-tiered cosmologies. Again, that's Robert Flood. So in the chakra system, we have 3 upper chakras, which are downward facing, which derive from the heavens. They're spiritual in nature, and they derive from the heavens. And then we have 3 lower chakras, which are terrestrial in nature, and they are derived from the earthly realms and from the lower realms, and they're upward facing. And they come together in the middle, and they come together in the heart. So, for example, all the other yantras include a triangle, except for the heart. And the traditional Hindu yantra for the heart is actually 2 interlaced triangles, one facing up, one facing down. In other words, the origin of the Star of David. Okay? Because the earth comes together in the heart, the heavens come together in the heart, and they join together, and the space in the middle of those 2 interlaced triangles is the heart itself. And the heart is called Anahata in Sanskrit. And a lot of people think that means heart, but it does not. Anahata chakra, literally the words do not mean heart. What the word Anahata means, the place where this becomes the other. Transition. The word Anahata in Sanskrit doesn't mean heart. We just call it heart because of where geographically it's centered in the body. But in the original Hindu and Sanskrit terminology, it is actually describing what happens when the 3 lower energies, the active, passive, and reconciling, interact with the 3 descending celestial energies of active, passive, and reconciling when they come together and spin. See, one's on a vertical axis going down. Grace coming from heaven. One is on an ascending axis coming up from the center of the earth, which is substance seeking to manifest. So when substance meets grace, they do a dance. That dance is called the dance of Shiva. It's called Shivas Dance, which means that 2 interlacing triangles, that sacred geometry, spins on its axis. And when it spins on its axis, it becomes the sacred tetrahedron, which is the fundamental geometry of all atomic structure. So those 2 things coming together and dancing, aka spinning, the ultimate positive, the penultimate negative, coming together and then dancing, spinning around each other, is the origin of creation. All right? So when I say 7 days, when I say 7 sets, 7 sessions, 7 interactions, what I'm doing is I am doing that dance with you. I'm doing that dance with my client. I am literally taking them from the earth. So in the supine position, okay, it's first chakra dominant as an emphasis, and it's all about security and survival, and it's about grounding, and it is grounding. That's why we work the feet and legs so much, because they have the lowest chakra value in the body. And so we hammer the feet, and we hammer the legs, and we stomp on them, and we push on them, and we palm press them, and we palm walk on them, and we work the root stimulus of the reflex points on the feet in order to draw the first chakra into awareness. In other words, I'm knocking on first chakra's door. Supine position. First session we call the discovery session. It's general. It's not too specific. In fact, the level 1 session, working all 5 attitudes a little bit, is perfect for that. We call first session the discovery session. It's discovery for you, it's discovery for me. It's discovery for you in that you don't know me and you don't know what I'm about really. You might think you know why you've come to see me, but you don't really know why you've come to see me because you don't really know who I am. How could you know why you come to see someone if you have no idea who they are? That's all guesswork, conjecture, and law of attraction. Okay? I know who I am, said the spider to the fly. I know what our relationship is because you are in my web. The only difference here is that my function is not to consume you. So it's kind of a reverse spider narrative, which is that when you get stuck in the web. Day number 1 is discovery. And it's discovery for you. You learn a little bit about me. It's discovery for me. I learn a little bit about you. And that's important. It's important to take time to get to know someone because you cannot trust someone you don't know. Okay? You might think you can, but intrinsically, on the level of the body, remember we have all these defensive capabilities that are built into the organs. Their whole job is to discriminate. Their whole job is to check the ID at the door. The whole function of we think the immune system is all about virus and bacteria and maybe fungus, and I want to tell you that's not true. It's about qualifying the quality of consciousness that's coming into your perimeter. And so your immune system will reject people. Your immune system will reject your job. Your immune system will reject an appliance, like your phone. Your immune system will reject your car. Your immune system will reject, it could reject anything. Anything. It's not about bacteria, virus, what? Its function is to check the door for anything that might pose a threat to the emperor or to the emperor's kingdom. Anything. And guess what? When you don't know me, I'm suspect. So you come to me for first session, I got to organize a meet and greet between my innate and your innate. I got to organize a meet and greet. I got to present some credentials, some creds. And I've got to also do the same for you. Because if I don't trust you, ultimately, you're not going to trust me. Because on some level, intrinsically, you're going to know that I think you're a putz. If nothing else, because of the micro expressions of the face, when you're telling me about your serious life study and your serious disability and your origin story of why you're in therapy, and my micro emotions are calling it bullshit. That's not true. I don't believe a word this client's saying. And even though I'll have a straight face and professional demeanor. I see. I see. Okay? But the micro expression on my face is going, bullshit! This client, what a liar. Never heard such a farcical story in my life. All the justification and defense. You would be surprised how many people spend the 90% of their first meeting with a new doctor justifying some bullshit. Telling them some story. Telling them some defensive stuff that's completely unrelated to why they're there. And you're like, why do you do that? Well, because you feel like you can't trust somebody who doesn't know you. And so your first incentive when you meet someone new, a new therapist, a new date, see, that's why people overshare on dates, is that you feel like you have to regurgitate, you have to turn your inner life inside out and vomit it on them, so that they can see the real you and know the real you, and they can get a sense of your motivation and so on and so forth, not realizing that if you do that before there is a trust bond, it is vomit. And that person will react as if it is. And they won't hold it sacred, and they won't treasure it. They'll go, oh. And now that's the person who you're relying on for your help and for your therapy. That's who they are. So don't do that. So what I do is I organize a meet and greet with the innates, and you can come too. You can bring your 5 bodies and the innate to the first session. We're going to have a meet and greet. I'm going to take you through 5 dimensions of 5 traditional attitudes. I'm going to bring energy, attention, consciousness, breath, and pressure to all 7 chakras, 3 primary doshas, all 12 principal meridians, 6 hollow organs, 6 solid organs, 700 marma, give or take roughly regionally about 300 acupoints, Q&A in the first session. You're going to go away with an impression. The work that I did in the first session is going to continue to work for days after that session is over. You're going to have little flashbacks, you're going to have little memories, you're going to have little considerations, often of things that are completely unrelated, things that you haven't thought about in years, things that you maybe even made an agreement with yourself you were never going to think about again, will suddenly start to show up in little bits and little bobs and little drips and little drabs. And you're going to have aches and pains unrelated to your primary complaint, because your primary complaint is a screaming baby, my back hurts so much. I know my foot hurts. Shut the fuck up. Can't you hear the back is in charge? Oh, I have a migraine. Everybody shut up. I have a migraine. And your small intestine is going, but we have gut dysbiosis and we have a pathogenic bacterial infiltration of an enemy army in our gut, which is about to explode into open warfare. And your migraine says, shut the fuck up. Shut up. Can't you see I have a headache? Can't you see I am a headache? I am the god of headaches. I am not a migraine. I don't have a migraine. I am a migraine. I'm a migraine as if I freaking invented it. That's how bad my headache is. And I'm a victim because of it. And that may very well be true. In the temporal way, in the realm of the five bodies, it may very well be true. But the whole time you're saying that, somewhere in the distance are other voices. The whole time you are crippled with pain, somewhere in the background there is a chaos of other voices that would like to be heard. Some of them are just the other parts who are like, I have as much a right to have an influence into what our body is doing as you do. Some of them are actually the voice of the steward, which is saying, trying to convince you that you are not the sum of your experience in your body, that you are not the headache, that you are not the knee pain, that you are not the hysterectomy, that you are not the ankle surgery, or you are not the bad back, or the osteoporosis, or whatever it is that you've been diagnosed with. That is not the sum of you, and nor should it be the sum of your life. And if it is the sum of your life, then in that moment, your life is done. When you are an immortal being, and no matter how messed up the shell is, you're still an immortal being. And when the shell stops to even be present in the world at all, you will still be here. The biggest lie of all is that you die. The biggest lie of all is that we die. You don't want to talk about lies. That's why P.D. Ouspensky said psychology is the study of lies. Because we've been raised from children to believe fundamental lies, things that are fundamentally not true in any universal sense. And they distort our perception, interpretation of our perceptions to such a degree that we don't know how to be here. We don't know how to be a human being. We don't know. We don't know how to be with other human beings. We don't know. As if it's new. And we're just discovering this process. Which is completely not true. Session number 2, day number 2, supine position intensive, is where we roll through the traditional 5 attitudes of the body one at a time, and we give it the deliberation, we give it the conscious appreciation that it deserves. And we have a conversation with all the energy lines on the front of the body. And that takes between an hour and an hour and a half, and anybody who says they can do it faster than that in a good way is lying. I've done 20,000 sessions like this, and it takes me an hour and a half to work all the lines on all the points righteously while paying attention. So if somebody else said, well, I could do it in 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, liar. You are such a liar. A liar. Now, when we say flow, and we're going to do a 10-minute flow or a 15-minute flow, what we're doing is we're doing two things. We're doing pacing. What's called pacing is an exercise to be aware of your environment. So just because you're working on a client doesn't mean you're not supposed to be situationally aware of the atmosphere that you're in and the client's needs as well. Okay, you have a structured time and you need to try and respect that. Okay, and next thing about flow is a fist fight inside of you that is supposed to happen, but we already know who the winner will be. Okay, flow for time is a fist fight between these two parts of you, your mind and your body. And if you stick to the concept of flow and the strictures, the rules, flow means go, don't stop. If you make a mistake, keep going. If you stick to the rules, the mind will eventually lose the fight. And the body will win. And what that looks like is you stop trying to think about what comes next. Oh, fuck it. Just keep going. And there's a transition from mental into muscle memory. And that once you make that transition from a mental exercise that you're doing, step number 1, and then step number 2, and then step number 3, 4. As soon as you stop doing that, but you're still in motion, see? We're following the structure of the exercise. As soon as you stop thinking about what comes next and you're still in motion, in that moment, boom, is the first time you're actually doing it. Up to that point, you're not doing it. You're just following a list. You're a parrot, right? Do you really think the parrots want you to do the things that the parrots tell you to do? Watch those bird videos, with the talking birds. It's hysterical. Mad Max is my favorite. Okay, don't watch Max. He will offend you, and you will not be able to look away all at the same time. Because when Max is mad, it's insane. But do you really think he's that mad at you, really? Or is he following another mechanical protocol, which is called reflection, repetition, and mimicking so that the bigger animals nearby don't eat them? That's actually what they believe it is. But you could mistake it for having a real conversation. But you're having a real conversation with a tape recorder and don't know it. Soon as you can go through the motions, go through the flow, do the vinyasa without one time thinking about what comes next, that is the first time you do the vinyasa. That's number 1. That's not number 10. That's not number 30. That's not number 300. That's number 1. That's the first time it counts, because that's the first time that the right part of you is doing the work. Now, why do I want a sophisticated therapy to be done with the muscle memory and with kinesthetic awareness versus cognitive function? Why? Okay, here's one of the differences between us, traditional indigenous natural medicine, and them, Western allopathic, cut, burn, and poison, okay, is that we actually put more value on innate function than on cognitive function in the practice of medicine. Because over time in history, we found our way to work better for thousands of years. Because here's what happens. The second I'm working with you, and I'm no longer doing a routine performance. See, as long as I'm thinking while I'm working on you, I got to do step 1. Now I got to do step 2. Now I'm going to do step 3. Move the leg, shake the leg, and then do the hokey pokey. And as soon as I am able to do what I do without having that thought that I'm following the song, and Simon has shut the heck up, In that moment, other parts of me are now available to be present, to guide what's going on, and to be sensitive to the client. See, as long as I'm struggling, as long as I'm efforting, as long as I don't know where I'm going, I got to follow the list on the board or in my head or what. The list is the list. The form is my satisfaction. The form is my safety. The procedure, the protocol, the step-by-step is my safety. As long as I'm doing that, I'm not paying attention to you. Half of my mind is self-absorbed. I'm more concerned with the look of my performance and my body comfort and my body attitude and my body position. I'm more concerned with that than I am with anything intrinsic to what's going on with you. I don't know if you're coming or going. I don't know if you're with me or not. I don't know if you're even in the room. I don't know if you're even in the room. I don't know if you're breathing. I don't know if you're not breathing. I don't know. As long as I'm self-absorbed. So the repetition is to get to a point to where you can be free of the self-introspective absorption. And can finally